Well, hello again, and welcome to Pop Culture Redemption, a show that is dedicated to helping the church have a better vision of God working in popular culture. Well, we're getting after it today. Let me tell you, if you didn't know, Gladiator 2 is coming out later this week on November 22nd in theaters. And so, in preparation for that movie, we decided to go back a few decades to rejoice, reject, and redeem what I'm going to try to start calling a Rejoice, Reject, Redeem, the first Gladiator movie that came out in 2000, starring Russel Crow. Yeah, we're going back there. And boy, did we have a lot to talk about. After we Rejoice, Reject, Redeem, Gladiator, I have a short conversation as well with a friend of the show, Alyssa Albee, on seeing Jesus in the public education system. Alyssa is a middle school teacher in California and has a lot of helpful experience and insight as we look at formative part of our culture, the education system. And finally, if you benefit from today's pod, please share this episode with one friend. Seriously, just one. That's how we are going to be able to impact more people to have better vision for God, seeing God in popular culture. And it starts with you. So that would help us out a bunch. All right, the intro's done. It's time to step into the world, this gladiator world, step into the Colosseum. Strength and honor. Hit it.
Pop! Bears. Beats. Battlestar.
Stay on target.
You can't handle the truth.
Stay on target.
It's over 9,000! What, 9,000?
With great power comes great responsibility.
There's only one God, man. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
Heck yeah, brother. Welcome to Pop Culture Redemption.
We're going to have to keep the whole thing, aren't we?
My name's Connor.
Oh, my name's Priscilla.
I'm Jake. Oh,
I'm Jordan Summers, and every time a bell rings, an angel visits a barber. And that's how we get angel hair pasta.
I don't think I'm ever going to eat angel hair pasta ever again. I think
never.
I think
I'm
I will
allergic
never.
to it.
That's right.
Never, ever.
Turns out I don't like that stuff anymore. All right. And we're here to help the church have a better vision about God's presence and work in pop culture. Not your pasta, but in pop culture.
Impasta culture.
Impasta. Let's dive into Gladiator. Let's just get after it.
Yes.
Jake, I was surprised that Jake was this excited, not because
I love this movie.
If you had been like, what's one of Jake's favorite movie? Gladiator would not have been one of the first movies I thought
Really?
about. Not that it wasn't, but it's just, it's from like 24 years ago. So it just wasn't. I'm pleasantly surprised
Like,
that
it's
you're
like
amped about this
The
movie.
Star Wars franchise, Gladiator, a couple other movies.
Right. Which future Connor will likely say something in the introduction about the fact that we're doing this movie because the Gladiator the second one
2 is about to
is coming
go
out
down.
on November 22nd, and this pod airs on November 19th. So
I'm
3 days from this pod, which is why we're doing the original Gladiator. We're helping you. You're welcome. We're helping you, audience, get ready for the next Gladiator movie.
It's about to go down.
So Jake gets to start us because Jake's amped about this movie.
Yeah.
So he gets to rejoice first.
I rejoice the entire movie.
Boom. There you go. All right. Our rejoice segment is done. We can move on.
It's so good. Oh, it's so good. I love the time period. I love the score and the soundtrack. The acting, like the performance of the actors was phenomenal. I legitimately hated Commodus, and that's exactly what I was supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
He was just terrible the entire time, but yet also at the same time, like relatable because he's hated and he knows he's hated, but he's trying so hard to get people to love him.
Yeah.
You did such a great job. Like it's so good. It is so good. There's so many things about this movie.
What would you say is your favorite part about Gladiator? What's your favorite scene?
My favorite, like, honestly, I think the favorite moment. Oh, there's so many. They're all so good.
There's so many.
I think for me, the integral scene is when they first bring up, and I'll bring this up later, is the not yet, like motif that keeps coming back in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's the idea, and I'll get into this in the redeem section, that it's here and not yet, right? So Juba, which I never knew his name until watching it this time with the subtitles on.
Yeah.
Like Juba said that he won't get to see his family until after they die, after he dies. And it's like, well, you're willing to wait. Oh, yeah. I just know I won't see them. Not yet. Just, yeah. It's so good.
I mean, the big reveal is also, when he turned his back to the Emperor. How dare you turn your back
My
to
name is
me,
Gladiator.
slave? Yeah.
Husband to a murdered wife. Father to a murdered son. Now I will have my vengeance.
In this life or the next.
Oh!
What a line.
The moment when a slave became more powerful than the emperor.
Yep.
Dang.
Just
Dang.
such a good story.
So good.
Okay, that's my rejoice.
So
I'm going to
good.
stop now. Somebody else should go, or else I'm just going to keep repeating myself.
I rejoice, in addition to the whole entire movie, like Jake, I will rejoice, courage and honor in the face of death. So, right. It's no matter what the consequences are of this decision, Maximus repeatedly shows a dedication to what is right, or at least what he believes to be right, and what is honorable, even if that means risking his own life. And unfortunately leads to the death of his wife and kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like refusing to join with this new emperor who just murdered the old emperor when the old emperor had just appointed Maximus to be the new emperor. The whole thing, like he was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then it led to a whole slew of consequences.
Yeah.
Or even throughout the whole movie, continually to do what he believed was the honorable thing to do. And the courage that takes. And I think it's inspiring for us as believers and as people just to have a similar level of courage. So courage is not the absence of fear, but it's
what we do in the face of it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's embracing it and it's choosing to move forward. And we're called to that kind of courage as believers.
Yeah.
So
can I submit a new favorite part?
Sure.
It's just one interaction I think is brilliant. And it goes right along with what you said, because it's right at the end when Maximus is in chains and Commodus is talking to him right before he does the whole in the lungs.
Yeah.
And Maximus says, I had a friend that said, death smiles at us all. The most a man can ever do is smile back.
Yeah.
And Commodus replies like, oh, and where is your friend now? I'm like, where was your friend when death met him? And he goes, oh, well, you should know. He was your father.
Yeah.
But just that line, death smiles at us all. Best a man can do is smile back.
Smile back. Snack that smiles back. Death. Priscilla, what do you what R word are we on? Rejoice.
We just started this episode. How are you already lost?
You're right.
All right. So I've already admitted in previous episodes that I'm not good with all of the names, but I got Maximus down. Someone's talking to Maximus, and y'all will correct me here shortly.
Mm-hmm.
I knew a man once, a noble man, who loved my father well, served Rome well. And then Maximus's response: "This man or that man is gone." I think for me that was a really big rejoice, just in the fact that he knew himself well enough to know those were him. Those were things that described him, and he was willing to say that person's gone. I think I could also take it to a reject, but just for the sake of it just being such a, I felt like I got chills, because this guy literally has all of these amazing things tied to him, and he's kind of like at the point in the movie he's like kind of given up.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't want a will. He doesn't really have a will to fight anymore. But I think this is where there was that turning point for him, where he's maybe finally starting to look at, oh, that was me. I've just admitted that's not me right now. But then as the movie continues, it almost like it comes back. It's this is me. I can be that again, even if I didn't hold up to that for a moment in time, because he's grieving and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. I just was like,
it was Lucilla that was talking to him.
Yeah.
It's almost like that part of him was resurrected.
Yes. Yes. 100%. Thank you for that word.
There you go.
The
Christian
mission,
buzzword.
the mission, the purpose resurrected him.
Yeah.
Yep.
He was reminded of his mission.
To go into all the nations,
mm-hmm.
baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Well, that wasn't his mission.
No, it wasn't.
That's right.
That mission
That's a
hadn't been
different
given
person?
yet, actually.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yep. Cool.
Such a good movie.
It's so good. All right, we're gonna take a break and then we're gonna start rejecting some stuff.
So good.
So good.
So good.
Sweet
I got
Carolina. Wow. Oh. All right, welcome back. Now it's time to reject. Name what's not so good about the movie, or what the morality of something that's maybe promoted in the movie that we're like, I don't know about that. So here's what I get to start us off, right or wrong. I never know how to set that up. We should probably figure that out. Maybe
start us off poorly.
You just got to start us off.
I start us off, and I want to reject the line where Maximus says to the general guard of the what are the Roman
Praetorian.
Praetorian. I could not remember that word. He says at one point, nothing happens to anyone that he is not fitted by nature to bear. And I was like, oh, that's a good line. But I'd like to change the fitted by nature to fitted and empowered by God. So I would like to, so I'm rejecting the original line and I'm amending it to nothing happens to anyone that they are not fitted and empowered by God to bear.
Yeah.
So because it's kind of like it plays on this whole belief, even in like Christian circles, like I reject the Christian belief that God will not give you more than you can handle. Ugh.
I mean, it is scripture.
Yeah, but
Taken out of context.
yeah, people take that as like more than I can bear. And it's like, well,
It's big, but
he
like,
will not give
bore
you
it all
more
for
than
us.
he can bear.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
in that you can, so I think of like, the parable about the house built on the sand or the house built on the rock, right? Jesus talks about those who hear these words of mine and do not put them into practice is like a fool who built his house on sand, right? And the winds came, the streams rose, whatever it all is. And the house was completely destroyed. But you who hear my words and put them into practice is like a wise person who built their house on the rock, right? All these things came in the rocks. But the house stands not because of the house, but because of what it's built on.
Yeah.
And
Ooh,
so,
come on.
so when it says nothing happens to anyone that he is not fitted by nature to bear, I go, nah.
Yeah.
No.
It's like it's close.
Yeah, it's close. If by nature you mean by God,
Yeah.
then and through God, then okay, maybe. But if not, then it's
Well,
not
they were
gonna
just
work.
talking about that in church about like, shoot, I lost it. God provides us everything that we need in order to live a godly life.
Mhm.
So he bears all things.
Yep.
It's not about whether or not we can do it on our own strength, because he's the one that provides what we need in order to get through it.
Yeah.
I basically just reiterated what you said. So
We're
I'm sorry.
preaching.
Yeah.
We're preaching. You know what? They talk about communication. It's impossible to over communicate what's important. So there you go, Jake.
Yep.
Nailed it. Got him.
Thanks.
All right, Jake, what would you like to reject?
Proximo. Just him,
Proximo. Which one's Proximo?
the Gladiator owner.
Oh, you're right.
He's a slave master.
Got it.
I just finding out in the movie that he used to be a gladiator, which I'm assuming did not happen to him by choice. Being thrown into slavery, into having to fight for his life for entertainment, time after time after time after time, and finally to the point where he's able to win his own freedom, then subjects the same suffering willingly onto other men.
Yeah. It's a bummer.
And treats it like it is honor and glory.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. Suffering, we going here. Okay.
Oh.
Suffering and trauma is not a badge of honor. It's something to acknowledge. I'm glad that we live in a culture now where we can acknowledge our trauma, but it's not something to be proud of.
Yeah.
Yes, Paul talks about boasting in our weaknesses, because through our weaknesses, Christ's love is made perfect. But it's not really boasting our weaknesses, it's boasting in Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not saying, look at me, look at how broken I am. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
I must be better than you because I've suffered through more.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we really want to judge it by that, we are all losers because Christ has suffered all.
Yeah.
So, and we're going there because we live in a culture today where it's all about trauma. Like, I don't know, endorsing is the wrong word, but we're trying to prove how relevant, how strong, how important we are based on how much we've suffered. So it's a look at me, look at how broken I am. That's not how we're called to live. We don't stay in our brokenness to prove to others how strong we are. We heal through our brokenness. We are redeemed through our brokenness to show how strong Jesus is. And so I want to reject Proximo treating his own trauma, his own struggles, his own pain as a good thing to then give to others. That's just wrong.
Mm.
Funny story. I reject the same thing.
Oh.
But because I then took it to a more relatable space and experience with culture, specifically within leadership. So I can't even say that it's just church leadership. That's like my main experience. That's my perspective. But I think I've seen it even in people in leadership who there's these generational gaps. We all know that I'm not going to be able to talk to my parents the same way that I talk to a younger sibling because there's even like language differences.
No cap.
When it comes to the and then the younger than my sister that I'm like, I have no idea what English is to you anymore, so I can't talk to you, I guess.
Yeah.
But within leadership and within these pains that we have that we can see in these older generations, turning around and saying that then you have to go through that same pain and suffering in order to be in a position like me has been the translation that I have received from culture.
Mm-hmm.
To the exact same extent, I had to go through this and this and this and this to get to this position. And instead of being willing to humble themselves, instead of being willing to come and say, you know what, I don't think I know the solution to this for this space and context now, let's figure this out together. It's instead sorry, you got to figure it out the hard way, just like I did, because that's how I had to do it. So go figure it out on your own.
Mm.
And you see that even with Proximo, there's several different points in time. He says, I paid so that I could profit for your death when he's talking to the gladiators. Or he gets in conversation with this other businessman and essentially are you trying to ask me to bet against my own men? Like, that's so unethical.
Oh, that's in the extended cut, which is now available on Prime, by the way.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Like, that's so unethical. But then the other person raises the price and it's like, okay, yeah, we probably have a deal. Like, these little pieces that seem so abstract, I feel, in the movie, that it's like, no, I think, unfortunately, that really hits home for our culture today in, I think I can get an easier way to do this, but I'm not going to even help somebody else know what that easier way is. Now this is my secret that somebody else has to earn and figure out the hard way in order for us to grow together.
Mm.
Instead of humbling ourselves and saying, look, I learned this the hard way. I don't want you to learn it the hard way. And again, I'm not blanket stating this statement like everyone is like this in all places and all things. But I have grown up in this culture that made me believe that this was the way I had to learn, was alone and doing it the hard way because other people weren't willing to do it differently.
To add a personal example, I'm not going to say names because they might be listening, but I ain't mad at it. It just happened. I was given grief one day by a guy who's older than me, like by a lot. There was something with a car. Like, I don't know. When I was driving my Prius, I didn't know how to change that Prius oil. Mm-hmm. I just didn't know. And I got the comment of, what? You don't know how to fix up your car? Every man should know how to fix their car. And the great part was another guy who was sitting next to me, which the guy that first responded, he was like the boomer age. And I had a Gen Xer right next to me who then said, okay, well, every man should know how to fix up a live stream system. Every man should know how to do sound equipment, because he's sticking up for me. But it got me thinking, like, I don't have to be specific in knowing how to fix up a car because people before me have gone through that and now offer their ability to fix it for me. We live in a day and age where we can have all the answers to our fingertips so that we can actually learn our specific things that we're good at. So it's like you're saying, the generation before fought and fixed all the problems, and then they get mad at us that we don't have the same problems.
Yeah.
Is dumb.
I just reject that that's a reason. That's an excuse to not help the younger generations. And it's not helpful, and it will only then create a pattern that the future generations will receive.
Okay, yeah, I agree that you don't have to like learn how like that kind of preposterous thing of like every man should know how to change.
Every man should know how to fix their car.
But you better know how to build a log cabin, Jake.
Why is that?
Every man should know how to build a log cabin.
Oh, for the
You don't know? Are you seriously telling me you don't know how to?
Don't know how to build a log cabin.
I mean, that's probably what
in the words of Fez from that 70s show. You are not a man.
You are not a man. Thank you.
This has been Stupid Derails from Jordan.
Thank you.
Well done, Jordan.
Good day.
Good day.
I said good day.
I said good day. I think too, just maybe to wrap up this reject too, is the first part of that where you're talking about suffering, right? And wanting to like, I mean, I was thinking like Romans 5 talks about not necessarily we glory in our sufferings because we know suffering produces perseverance, character, and character hope. Like that's the difference, right? Between like what Proximo is like perpetuating suffering. It's not like we aren't like handing out suffering and saying you're welcome. Like it's not our job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, we take your suffering and we give you hope.
Yeah. Well, it's when we do suffer, and I think in the context of Romans 5, he's talking about especially suffering for the gospel, right? Then we know the suffering produces perseverance, persevering character, hope. But we're not called to just like dish out. It's not like, hey, you're welcome that I'm being a jerk and causing you to suffer.
Right.
Like, no, that's just immoral.
Right. Like,
you know,
Proximo, like gladiators, I salute you.
Right.
Why are you like?
You
That's
are
not
my
a good
slaves.
thing.
You're my slaves. I bought you. I'm going to put you in this arena. You're going to die probably.
But
And I'm
I
going to make
respect
money
you.
off of that. So you're welcome. You should thank me.
Yeah.
Right?
You're like, no,
No.
it's not what that's about. So, yep. Well, this has been the Reject segment brought to you by the letter R.
They're all
We're taking a break. We'll be back in a second. All right, welcome back. We're redeeming this sucker. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Where are we going?
We're going to Rome.
Oh, dude, I'd love that.
That'd be so sick.
Dude.
If you want to donate to a Pop CR trip to Rome,
Yes, please.
we would appreciate that. Thank you.
We'll do a live recording from the Colosseum
That's right.
where we fight to the death.
Tell you what, if you buy our tickets, we'll let you buy your ticket too. And you can come to Rome with us. Anyways, I'm going to start the Redeem train, and I'm going to start it with, again, Redeem, we talk about where's the bridge points of the gospel? How can we witness to culture with the good news of Jesus? And there's this point towards I guess it's kind of in the middle where the senators are talking to each other, and they're talking about how the new emperor is bringing back the Gladiator games, right, to the Colosseum. And so Senator Gracchus, kind of the lead senator, says on the Colosseum, I think the emperor, knows what Rome is. Rome is the mob. Conjure magic for them, and they'll be distracted. Take away their freedom, and they'll still roar. The beating heart of Rome is not the marble of the Senate. It's the sand of the Colosseum. He'll bring them death, and they will love him for it.
Mm.
And I believe that this is what Satan does with the world. Like distraction, fighting, right? Removal of freedom, and we don't even realize it. Satan offers death as an illusion of life.
Ooh.
Right? We think it's life, and it's actually death.
And we love him for it.
And we chase after it. Yep. John 10:10 reminds us that the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. And Jesus says, I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. So where Satan gives us distraction, takes away our freedom, binds us to sin, to shame, right, to being trapped, to guilt, and we don't even realize it until it's too late, right? Jesus comes that we may have life and have it to the full. So I think like the world, when they're searching for life, and they search and they search and they search, and we search for life in all the wrong places, right? That eventually become aware of the fact that, oh, these things actually don't give me any sort of value or life or satisfaction that lasts, right? Maybe it's a short hit, but then it leaves me more broken or thirsty or whatever than I was before, empty than I was before. And Jesus, right, calls himself the way, the truth, and the life. So when people become dissatisfied with the distractions of the Colosseum, right, it's an opportunity to invite them to experience life to the full, to experience Jesus Christ.
You know, the crazy part with that is that I have noticed, and I have been more recognizing the things that lead me towards death by trying to practice Sabbath. Because, and we've gotten a lot better at this the last couple of weeks. Like, Jesus has been great. I've gotten to a place now where Sabbath is starting to be my favorite day of the week, which is what that is for. But the long battle has been, because you're supposed to rest, right? You're supposed to rest and do the things that bring you joy, bring you life. And so
Connected to Jesus.
Yes, connected to Jesus, not connected to Jesus. So Pete Scazzaro from Emotionally Healthy Spirituality would say that Sabbath has 4 elements: stop, rest, delight, worship. And that's that delight part that I've been noticing, all the distractions, all the things that throughout the week I thought was bringing me life. But on the day where I'm supposed to feel, as JMC would say, my soul return to me, I have seen the things that do not do that.
All right, Priscilla, what would you like to redeem?
Well, I'm going to connect a dot here first.
Oh, love it.
And say that it's because we become enslaved by the things that we think are actually our freedom. They actually enslave us. Which leads me to my point.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember who said it. It was just so good.
Gotcha.
That I am a slave. What difference can I make? I think
Maximus.
it was Maximus. And that really caught me, like, because I see 2 sides. I see the I am a slave. What difference can I make? On the what can I do differently so that I'm not a slave? I don't have power to do that. And the I'm a slave, there's not any difference I can make in the world because I'm entrapped in all of these things that I'm stuck in. For him, he's literally a slave. He's like imprisoned. He can't go outside of whatever boundary he's been given. And most of the time it's to fight until someone dies. But we have this beautiful opportunity as believers to say that we have been enslaved and we can be enslaved by the things of this world. Mostly by our own choosing and by our own choices and by the consequences of our actions. What can I make if I am a slave? But I think it's challenging to look at, if I were a slave to this, what difference could I make? So if I were not enslaved to that, if I remembered the freedom instead that I have in Christ, what difference can I make? What are the things that I can do differently, the impact that I can have on the world, and the difference in impact I can have for myself in the way that I live, if I choose to not look at my an enslavement mentality, but the side of freedom. Because the thing is, we're human, and we all fall short, and we are going to find ourselves in sin. Even in gossiping, did you know that you're not supposed to no one is free from sin?
But I got a prayer request about Connor because he's going crazy.
Oh my gosh. I mean, you think about... What'd you say?
That I'm off the handle.
You're
right
off
now.
the handle. So bad.
I need a handle to keep me on the handle. Wait, what?
Don't think about that one too much. We get so far in actually getting to because social media exists now in such a crazy way. We hear of all the pastors who have sinned, sexual immorality, all of these things that are big in the news and all the things, but then we forget to look at each other and, hey, did you know you were talking negatively about someone in a way that was not true about that person? Did you know that when you were talking about yourself negatively, that you were talking about a child of God in a negative way, giving me permission to do the same thing to myself? Did you, we can go back and forth on the little things, and we're enslaved to those things. But what could we do if we were not enslaved to those things and we chose to walk in the freedom that we have in Christ? What difference could we make?
Yeah, I was thinking this entire time, I think it depends on what you're a slave to. Are you a slave to the world, or are you willingly slave to Christ? That's all the difference. That's a good word.
I'm a slave to trends.
Oh, geez.
Sure you are, Connor. If that were true, you'd be cooler.
It's true. You're not wrong.
You could quit whenever you wanted, right?
I can start whenever I want.
I could start whenever I want.
All right. I have a whole thing, and this is full baked. I love the motif of here and not yet, as I mentioned before. And there's so many routes I can go with this because it's kind of connected to the dolls that Maximus has that I wouldn't call dolls. I'd call them idols of his wife and his child. There's this whole thing. I'll probably talk about this on a different episode, but like when God said, let us make man in our image, that Hebrew word is the same thing for idol. And so we are made in God's image. We are his idol. We are his representation on this earth. I was thinking I was going to go that route. But the other night, I think the Lord just started to work on this idea with me. The idea of being here and not yet. Because like Maximus's only connection to his wife and his son was through those idols he had before and after they died. You know, before it was the reminder, I still like my wife and my son. After they died, that was his only connection to them. Yeah. In both the reminder that his family was with him in spirit, and yet he could not be with them yet. In this very tough year that I've been walking through, I've spent most of it unemployed. And right at the beginning, when all crap hit the fan, I received 2 words from the Lord, my 2 least favorite words ever: rest and wait. And he also just told me to work on myself, work on my passion, which is music, and I'm cooking on something real big. I'm really excited about it, but at the same time feeling like I have to wait. And for any who know me, like the people in this room, I don't like waiting. I won't stand in line. I hate lines. I hate waiting. I am the most impatient person I know.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not a doctor, because I have no patience.
Nailed it.
Like I'm all, and with that, I'm always doing something. I'm always watching something. I'm always listening to something, reading something, playing something. I just don't sit still well. And my parents can attest to that. Never have been. But throughout my life, the times when I've heard the voice of Jesus has been in the stillness. I haven't realized this until recently, and I didn't even know how distracted that I had become. So let me tell you, let me tell you about the paradoxical kingdom of God, right? Because this is the word of Jesus. He said, repent and believe. The time has come here. The kingdom of God is near yet. Yes, I believe that's what he said. So the kingdom is both among us and not yet arrived. And I wonder if our callings can also be twofold. I wonder if, I just need to stick to what I wrote. I wonder if I can feel called to prepare something to come and yet at the same time wait. I wonder if the Lord can provide for me now exactly what I need, yet also be preparing something greater for me later. I wonder if that means that there can really be peace in a storm, calm in the midst of fear, strength in weakness, and joy in sorrow. So I think this is where we can help, like just wrapping it up, redemption moment, the here and not yet. I think this is where we can help people walk people who don't know Jesus through the paradox of our faith and the hope that lies in it. Priscilla and I have been struggling just to stay above the waves. I've wondered sometimes if we'd have to choose between gas and food, or bills. And yet the Lord has called me to wait. And if I'm waiting, I can't provide. It's the most annoying thing ever.
Yeah.
I hate it. I have to rely on him and I hate it. But in all of it, this motif, this here and not yet, has reminded me that the promise of the Lord is both here and not yet. The kingdom is both here and not yet. And that's okay. There's joy and freedom and peace in that.
You better preach.
I just did.
I know.
You want me to do it again?
I mean, if you want to.
I don't have anything else.
Yeah.
Just go back to the top of where you started and go through the whole thing all over
Okay,
again.
just repeat myself.
Yeah.
Okay. Listener, rewind about 2.5 minutes and I'll say it all over again.
It's generous. It was closer to 5.
Dang it.
No, just kidding.
Oh my god.
No, I think it's a important reminder. And, oftentimes I think we put this false, some people call it dualism, you call it dichotomy, whatever, where you have like an either or.
It's
right?
a both and.
Right. And the gospel is very much a both and.
Is God with us here? Yes. Is he coming back? Yes. Does that mean he's gone? No.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's good. I think that's a good spot to end. Any final thoughts on Gladiator before we wrap up this portion of the podcast?
It's a good movie.
It's a good movie.
Go watch the
It
movie.
is very good.
Be
If
ready for
you
the
haven't seen
second
it
one.
before, if it's been a while since you've seen it, watch it again.
And if you have the money, you should get the extended version that just got released on Prime. There's a couple scenes in there that help give some context to some of the characters that just, I wish they were in the original.
Yeah.
And if you have the money, remember to support the Pop CR Rome
There we
Fund.
go. There we go.
Amen, brother.
Send us to Rome, and you know what? You can buy your own ticket too.
That's right. We'll let you come along. If you buy your own ticket, we'll let you come along. No, this has been really good. We're looking forward to watching part 2, and we'll probably have a podcast on part 2 eventually.
Oh, absolutely.
So Jake will absolutely.
I'll do one
champion
myself.
that. Jake's like, I don't care. I'll do it by myself.
Mm.
I don't care. Be courage.
Amen, brother.
Courage to move forward.
Yeah.
That's right.
Ridiculous.
Well, again, thanks for listening. If you have anything you'd like to add on to our Rejoice, Reject, Redeem, hit us up. We want to hear what you have to say. We want to hear what your vantage point is. What are some other ways that you see God working through this movie, in this movie? And that can be an important thing for us as we grow and as we interact with culture as well from our end. So this is very much a conversation, not just a one-way thing that we're trying to put out into the world.
Talk to us.
Please. And buy us tickets to Rome. Okay. Until next time, remember, God is working in pop culture. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Bye. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Pop Culture Redemption. Welcome to our interview series. Whether you're, catching this on the back end of our podcast or you're engaging with this on YouTube, we're excited that you're here. I'm really excited about our conversation today. I'm joined by Alyssa Albee. Alyssa is a Christ follower, a friend of the show, a friend of Pop Culture Redemption through Jordan, and a middle school teacher in the state of California. So today we kind of invited her on to talk about Jesus and the education system in her context. Excuse me. Alyssa, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited for this conversation. So maybe Alyssa, in addition to what maybe I've already, just a little bit about you, is there anything else you'd want the audience to know about you as we dive into our conversation today?
Jordan's awesome. Love that guy.
He is awesome. We agree.
Good. I'm glad. I love Dungeons and Dragons. Those are some of my hobbies. I'm a mom of one boy, but another boy on the way. I've been married now for about 8 years, but been with my high school sweetheart for about 15 years total. And I grew up in the public education system, and we'll probably get into that a little bit later. Now I'm working at the very school that I went to when I was in middle school. Yeah. Pretty crazy story, actually, how that happened. So, that's a little bit about me, and sure we'll get into it a little bit more later on. But
you talked a little bit about your upbringing in the public education system, but now you're at that is crazy, teaching at the school where you grew up in or you went to at some point.
I went to, for all 2 years. So
all 2 years, middle school, right?
Yeah, because here in middle school is 2 years. So I know in most states, and actually here it's like 3, but in Clovis it's just 2 grade levels.
Gotcha. So maybe unpack a little bit more what your background, experience, education within the education system is.
Yeah, so I grew up going to public school my whole life. My parents are divorced, and so that greatly affected kind of
Mm.
how I went to school. I My parents shared custody, and so I went every other week. So if I forgot like my book at one house, well, I was kind of screwed for the next week unless one of them was gracious enough to drop it off, which sometimes happened, sometimes it didn't. Um, my mom became an educator after my parents got divorced. She went to college, but she really wanted a better life for us. She wanted to be able to spend summers with us. So she busted her butt, worked 3 jobs, and got her teaching credential. And so most of my childhood, starting from like 5th grade and up, I remember being in my mom's classroom on weekends and helping her hang bulletins and grading papers with her. Uh, Helping her run small groups in for summer school, um, and all that jazz. So I've been a part of the education system for a long, long time. I ran after school programs for many years after I graduated high school, and then I was a substitute teacher for a while. Decided I had a little crisis that I decided I didn't want to be a teacher, so I went to
Mm.
ministry for 2 years. Jordan knows that whole story. And after being in ministry for 2 years, realized it wasn't for me. And I decided if I was going to hate my job, I might as well make a little bit more money and get summers off. So here we are. But now I actually really love my job. So I think God, kind of redeemed that for me in a way. I'm very happy working where I am, but that's a little bit of background of my educational
Yeah,
experience, I
that's
guess you
awesome.
could
So
say.
so once you like, I know people that have a similar experience to you, where they kind of did the education, got trained to be a teacher, then they're like, and jumped into something else for a little while.
Hmm.
And so I was like, yeah, I've heard that experience from others as well.
Hmm.
Once you kind of started teaching again, how long have you been maybe doing that? And how long have you been in your current role?
Yeah, so I've been teaching now for 6 years. So if you do the math on that, my first year of teaching was the year of the shutdown.
Oh,
So that was quite the first year. I still remember teachers telling me, "All right, get ready, Alyssa, because like we're gonna have to be teaching summer school because like they're gonna shut down the schools." And I was like, "You're crazy. They're never gonna shut down the schools."
yeah.
And there we were. But
And then
I
you
was
were.
actually very fortunate. So the way it used to work, I worked at a different school for 2 years. I worked at a different middle school. And the way it worked there was teachers, in my role, we taught English and history together. Is we would what we call loop with our kids. So we would start with them in 7th grade, and then we would also teach them in 8th grade. And so those kids I had in 7th grade, I also had them the year where we did like Zoom, like
Oh,
for half the year or most of the year. Um, and so I already knew them going into it. So I had a huge advantage above most teachers in the district where like they're all new kids and you don't know them at all and you're getting to know them through a screen. I was like, Joey, knock that off. I know what
yeah.
you're doing, like you
Right.
with me? I knew which kids were with me and which ones weren't. So I had a huge advantage with that. Um, I forgot what your question was, to be honest.
No, that was great. I was just asking how long you've been doing what you've been doing.
Oh, yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. So 6 years, and then I moved into my current role 4 years ago. After that happened, they had to lose a teacher because of enrollment numbers, and so I transferred over to my school that I'm at now, which is the school that I went to. An opportunity opened up, and I asked for their blessing to go because originally they wanted me to go down to middle school to elementary school, hoping that they could find a way to somehow keep me there, and it just wasn't possible. So I asked for their blessing. Can I please go?
yeah.
Because I did not want to go to elementary at all. I was like, please don't make me go to elementary. I wanted to
Mm.
stay in middle school. And so I asked for their blessing if I could go, and they said yes. So I've been in my current role now for 4 years. I teach reading intervention. And then this is my second year now teaching peer counseling as an elective. So I teach kids how to like run a session with their peers where basically they're just really good listeners and they are just letting them know that, hey, we're here for them, we're here for you, and they don't give advice at all, but they're just a mediator. If a student is struggling and just needs someone to talk to, then they don't want to talk to an adult about their problems. So
Gotcha.
that's what I teach um, now.
Very good. That's awesome. Yeah, as you were saying, you're like, I didn't want to jump down to middle school and stay in middle school. I was like, or jump down to elementary school. I wanted to stay in middle school. I was like, man, God bless your ministry. You know?
Kindergarten teachers are like, oh my gosh, you are crazy for teaching middle school. And I'm like, ditto, you are crazy too.
Yeah.
But I think you have to be a little crazy to be a teacher in this day and age. So we're all just a little crazy here.
That's probably true. You're probably onto something there. So we'll dive in now to talking about how you see Jesus within the education system in your context. And I think we're going to use a similar format to what we do on the main podcast, which is just rejoice, reject, redeem. So we'll start with rejoice, kind of unpack a little bit for us in your context. What's good about the education system?
I do see a lot of good in our education system. I know people like to bash the education system, and I will do that here in just a minute, trust me. But there is a lot of good in the education system. Like I work with the kids who are in 7th grade. So to give you context, that's about 12 or 13 years old, and they are reading at a 3rd grade reading level. That's my average. I have some that are reading at a 1st grade, some that are reading at 5th. So, so they're kind of in between. And most of them come from low income families, and not all of them. That's a bit of a stereotype, but most of them, I would say 75% of them do. And what I love about my school and most public educational systems is that we're giving these kids a chance because their parents are not involved. Most of them, these low social economic families. And again, I'm stereotyping a little bit here, but from what I see, the stereotype is that has some merit to it. And these students are being given a chance to get an education, go do what they want in life. Because a lot of them have really big dreams, and some have no dreams at all. Like, it's really kind of a sad question when I ask them, like, hey, what have you thought about what you want to do? I'm not asking like you to make a decision now, but what have you thought about? And some of them are like, oh, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. And I'm like, okay, well, let's think about that. Because you can do what you want if you put in this effort, right, into this reading intervention. And if you build that reading foundation, because reading is really the foundation of any education. If you can't read, you're not going to go places, period. It's really, like I said, in my opinion, the foundation. And so I think it helps even the playing field for people like, I think if you've got great parents and, they're willing to put in that effort with you, and they read to you every night and they help you with your homework, you are far better off. Like, you will thrive in any education setting, whether that's homeschooling, private education, charter school, whatever it is. You will thrive anywhere if you've got supportive parents. But unfortunately, a lot of kids do. And so I think that the public education system gives these kids a fighting chance. That's good that I see. And I see a lot of good in a lot of students. Like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, this generation is like, this TikTok generation. They're just terrible and blah, blah, blah. But especially and maybe I'm a little biased because I teach peer counseling, where like these students purposefully signed up for my class because they're like, we want to help our fellow peers and we want to be good people.
Yeah.
But I see so much just compassion from these students, and they want to do right by the world, and some of them don't always go about it in the right ways. But just, I don't know. I see so much potential in this generation, and I think a lot of good that I see in our public education system is the teachers as well. Like, I have met maybe 2 or 3 teachers in my whole career that'd be like, yeah, no, they suck. They're terrible teachers and they should not be here. But the rest are stellar. There are good teachers out there. There really are. And I'm so tired of parents blaming their kids' education on us when really it's them.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of good in the education system, and the students are just one example of that. But there is a lot of good.
Yeah. I remember, like, we're part of the millennial generation, and people did not have nice things to say about us either, and it's like, I'm like, here I am, I'm like, I'm doing the work, putting it in, whatever, and so just to say, if we are coming at a whole group of people with that mindset of, whatever the negative thought is, and you're stereotyping a whole group of people, and that's you're missing the greater purpose of the kingdom of God, like one at work, that God is going to raise up, equip future generations for his purpose and his glory. And two, you're kind of missing the gifts, not just the maybe the perceived slights or weaknesses, but you're missing the gifts that a generation can have and does have on a society. And so that's
I see that on a daily basis. And that's why I think I see a lot of good in the public education system. But is it good in the system or just good on, the generation? You know, we can get into that. But
no, that's good clarification. So maybe like let's move in maybe to some of the critiques as you see them within the education system in
There's
your
a lot.
context. Yeah, maybe like what are maybe two or three that come to your mind?
I guess I'll start with the students, right? I mean, it's kind of like a coin, right? There's a good side, there's a bad side to the students. I see a lot of great students. I have so many great students, but I also have some students that I genuinely worry are going to end up in prison one day. And some of them, they really just don't get it. You'd be surprised at the amount of the N-word I've heard being thrown out. The N-word. 12 years old. The N-word.
Yeah, man.
Just wild to me. Because I don't even think I heard that word until high school. So, and some people are like, wow, you must have been really sheltered. And I'm like, again, I went to public school. So it's not like the same exact school of these kids. And so I can't make that argument with me. And maybe I just hung out with really good kids. I don't know. And I think I did. But some of the blatant just disregard for people's feelings with some of these students. Like just the other day, I had to settle a dispute between some girls because they were calling each other fat. In a joking way, of course. But it's like, why is that a joke? I don't understand. Like, why is this a joke? Why was that funny? Do you really think that's funny? And they're like, well, no. And I'm like, okay, well, there you go. So let's stop it, please. I'll go into this one as well. The transgender issue is also a big problem, I think, in our school system, especially in California. One of my biggest issues with the transgender issue is that I cannot inform parents when their kids tell me that. That's one of my biggest issues with our school system, is that when I have a student disclose that to me, that asks me, Mrs. Albee, I want to identify as this, I would like you to call me this, I cannot speak on that at all to the parents.
Wow.
Isn't that wild? Wouldn't you be so offended if your kid, like if a teacher knew that your child was like going through this and I didn't say anything to you? Personally, I would be so up in arms if I found out. But legally, I cannot say anything. It's like against the law, at least here in California. And so that's a big issue I have, because I have a transgender child probably once every year. I don't have one this year, but every year I've had one. And let me tell you, those are the ones with the most social emotional needs. Last year I had one. They wanted to be called Leo, and it was just the most crazy thing. Like almost every day, Leo would ask me to go out, sit outside and cry with their girlfriend. And I was like, okay, sure, honey. What do you need? Whatever you need. And I'm here to talk if you need to talk. But sometimes they'd spend an hour outside my classroom just crying over things.
Yeah.
And I found that they tend to have the most problems out of anybody I found. And you're like, well, yeah, you're going through a huge identity crisis. Right. Of course. And people are buying into it. That's the other wild thing, is that like, sweetie, yeah, you can ask me to call you he, him, but don't ask me to go to the bathroom so you can go change out your pad for your period. Because that's what happened a lot.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's wild. That I think like the part too of not being able to inform parents and bring parents into that conversation, because like we said, it's such an identity crisis, identity, like what you're talking about, tremendous needs mentally, socially, like, and to not be able to pull parents into that conversation to let them know what's going on at school for the kid. Maybe they're aware of it, maybe they're not, but not be able to even partner with them in that with that student and to meet that student's needs where they're at is really heartbreaking.
It's very heartbreaking to see. And there is definitely an epidemic of, students, and this is, part of the coin that I was saying about the bad things is I think a lot of parents want to blame the school system for their kids' problems when really they're the ones who are not monitoring their kids' phones. So they're on TikTok, they're learning all these crazy words and all these stupid trends and all these things. And the thing is that with the education system, right? Like, and I've struggled with this in my own, with my own son. He's only 2, so I don't have to make this decision for a while. But even though I work in the public education system, I'm like, would I send my own kid? I truly don't know. Not because I don't trust him or my own ability to parent, but because I don't trust other people. I don't trust other parents. And I don't trust that they are monitoring their children's language and what they are intaking. And that's what I've seen a lot of. A lot of good, like I said, the students who I've seen with compassion and all these with solid Christian parents sending their kids in as lights, getting influenced by these ideas because other parents aren't checking them. And again, they want to blame us. And I hear this so much of like, oh, well, teachers are just indoctrinating your children. And like, they're saying that, they're pro this and, they're saying this about your kids. I think I've seen one teacher in my whole teaching career that's had like the queer flag in her room. And you know what? That's fine. That's her decision. Whatever. We're not supposed to bring that stuff into our classroom, but whatever. That's her decision. And I have never, ever, the conversations I've had about it is, we may not agree, but we still got to be respectful at the end of the day. That's literally the only thing that I have said to students about it. And
yeah.
But yeah, it's that negative influence that I see. And I do see the devil working a lot in our school system to make our students to use those things. And it just heightens the depression and the anxiety for sure. And I've also seen a lot of students struggle in the education system because they can't sit still.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, they don't fit in the box.
Right.
Of the education system. Girls fit a lot easier than boys do. And that's, again, another thing I have with the system that I'm struggling with my own child. It's like, do I send my son into a system where it's not a one size fit all kind of a thing. It's really not. I think it can fit a lot of them, certainly, but not everybody. It's public education just is not for every child, period. It's just not.
Right.
Not the way we have it designed.
Right. It's not built for the custom needs and giftings of each individual child. It's like what you said, it's built more to be kind of mass producing a certain level of competencies in kids, which on the one hand is probably good, but on the other hand presents a whole host of issues for the kids that aren't able to fit into that norm or expectation, which unfortunately is probably a lot of kids.
Yep, exactly. And that's what I was talking about, the coin, right? Is that it gives a lot of students opportunities, but it also hurts, I think, a lot of students in some ways.
So maybe let's go to the redeem real quick. We got 7 or 8 minutes left. Maybe we talk about redeem. We talk about how we find Jesus at work. We talk about redeem, tying that gospel message of the good news right into how do we see Jesus at work in that redemptive process. So how do you see Jesus specifically working within both the good and the hardships or the struggles or the bad things of the education system?
In so many ways. I get to have so many conversations I don't think I'd be able to have if I were in ministry. Like, I actually have 3 girls that are Islamic in my peer counseling class, and the conversations I get to have with those girls because they stay in my classroom every day at lunch because they feel safe in my room. Um, it's just amazing. And some of the questions I get asked, because I'm not afraid to tell the kids that like I'm a Christian. Like I don't just blatantly say it, but I'm like, oh yeah, I went to church this weekend. How was your weekend? What'd you do? And so they know, at the end of the day. I'm not allowed to pull out my Bible and start, whipping that out, but I've got like a Bible verse on my desk. I pray over the desk, like once a week, for my students. And I do see a lot of Jesus redeeming students. And actually, a big part of population at our school is Christian. And a lot of the students, it's always interesting to me to see when we actually talk about some of the issues that we see, how Jesus centered some of them are. And I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. Did not know that, you actually have some correct theology here about some things. That's nice to see. And I don't know, like I see, like I said, I feel like I see myself as a missionary in a lot of ways, and I know a lot of Christian teachers feel the same way. And maybe that's why I see Jesus in the system. I think COVID opened up our eyes to the fact that the school system doesn't work for all kids, and I'm happy to see that a lot of parents have pulled their kids out of the system to homeschool and do that, and I'm so grateful for that because I think that, like I said, public school just is not for everybody. But it opened up our eyes that we need to pay attention to kids' mental health. I had a student that tried to commit suicide during COVID, and it was because another student reported it that she's alive.
Wow.
Not because another adult found out. It's because another student reported it. And she was a believer, and she was just like, I just knew that I had to say something. And so I see a lot of that, and I see a lot of I see a lot of Jesus through my students. And like I said, Christ's compassion just kind of bleeding through them in a lot of ways. So yeah, I'm not sure if that fully answered the question, but
Oh, absolutely. I think it's always interesting when, as we're doing these interviews, and I get to hear different people talk about different things that they're passionate about or have expertise in or have a unique vantage point. When we ask the redeem question, it always comes back to people. It comes back to the reality that Jesus is at work in people's lives, real people, and that not only do we see Jesus through people who know Jesus, but oftentimes we can see and experience Jesus through people who maybe don't have faith in Jesus, but like you're talking about, they still exhibit things that are good.
it's like
And
they were created by him.
I know, right? And we have right. That's exactly right. And so it's yeah, that's just really encouraging for me to hear what you're talking about, and especially the story of the student that reported the friend that was having suicidal thoughts and just able to say help save that person is so encouraging to see that goodness working at work. And you can go, yeah, as a Christian, as a believer, knowing that God, like you said, is the creator of all things and of all people, and loves all people, that he still works in people even when they don't know him or they don't recognize it's him. It's just it's cool. So yeah, is there maybe anything else, as we got a couple minutes left, anything else that you would like to speak into?
Just know that God can work anywhere,
Oh,
even
that'll
public
preach.
school system.
That'll preach.
And I try to be an example of Christ in my own school. And I know a lot of parents are scared to send their kids to school, as am I, as I have expressed. But Jesus is still there. He has not abandoned the school system. I'll just give a real quick example. About 2 years ago, the Devil's Club, I mean, like literally the Devil's Club, tried to get onto our school system, into our campuses, and they denied them. They said, no, you will not come on campus. And they said, well, then you got to get rid of the Good News Club, the Jesus Club too, because that's discrimination. And they said, they're keeping our kids out of prison and they're doing reading intervention. So no, we will not be doing that. and they came up with some kind of loophole to make sure it wasn't discrimination, or religious discrimination was the wording that he used. And Jesus wins against the devil always.
Yep.
So
victory in Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
That'll preach too. Well, hey, thanks so much. I've really enjoyed kind of our short conversation.
Yeah,
is there any? I mean, like sometimes our guests have like other projects that they work on. Sometimes they're just like not really. But is there anything that you're working on or that you want people to know about? How to connect with you, or are you kind of just like, nah, I'm just here to have a good time and to
I'm
share
just
how
here
I
to
see
have a
Jesus.
good time. Go follow Caleb Empowers. That's where Jordan and I play D&D, So
there you go.
There you go. I heard he was on your podcast not that long ago. He's awesome. So there you go.
Sounds great. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.